Welcome everybody, and thanks for taking time out on your Thursday afternoon to come and listen to me. I'll try not to put you to sleep too much. I will kind of apologise. I'm quite passionate about mergers and acquisitions, so we've tried to cram in quite a lot. So if I'm gonna try and motor through it, but. The objective for today is to give you some of the valuable insights into the things that can go right and the things that can go wrong when looking to sell your business, the pitfalls to avoid, so you can go away forearmed and forewarned and with hopefully some value add. But in the nature of doing that, what I think would be really useful to do is just to get an idea if any of you have come here with some burning issues. Obviously, going to a seminar about planning to sell a business is not something that my wife would do. So, so if you've got any burning issues that you want to get answered today, then if you just want to shout them out, I'll write them down on the board and I'll make sure we cover them as we go through. So anybody? Yep.
It's not a burning issue, but one of the things I was wondering is when you get to the point where you actually know that you want to sell, you don't want to necessarily rush out there and tell everyone, I want to sell, I want to sell. So how do you subtly get the message out there that you might be available?
Right. Sorry. Right. Sorry, apologies for the microphone, by the way. We're videoing it, and I've been told that I'm not allowed to just shout. Normally I just shout. Confidentiality. Yeah, so how do you protect confidentiality in a process?
Well,
I'm getting from that.
Yes and no. No, I mean, I don't know if it works in a confidential way, but what I'm saying is I want to sell, let's say I want to sell my business, but I don't necessarily want to shout it. I'd like it to be, I don't know, leaked.
Yeah. No, I understand 100%. I'm really glad you mentioned that. There's a bit on it. It's quite an important issue. Anybody else? Anybody?
How do you value your company?
How do you value your company? Oh, nice question. Okay. There are no right or wrong answers, by the way, on this. Okay, super. Well, great. So we'll make sure we cover these things. By the way, there is a question and answer session at the back, but if anybody has any questions throughout, just shout them out. I'm not, just shout them out. Arch? So, in thinking about whether you want to sell your business, and I'm quite passionate about this as well, the first thing to do is to figure out why owner-managers should sell a business. And I quite often sit there with clients and actually advise them not to sell their business. And to really understand this, it's worth going back to my theories anyway, and it'd be interesting to hear if anybody violently disagrees with me, on why owner-managers start a business. So why do you guys think, why did you start your businesses? Those of you who own businesses? Anybody?
Money.
Money. Okay. Money. Sorry? Gap in the market. Gap in the market that wasn't being exploited by the firm that you were working for at the time. Or other firms. Okay. Anybody else? Independence. Yeah, absolutely. Anybody else?
You think you can do it better than the competition?
You think you can do it better than the competition, and nobody else is doing it that way, so you think this way is better, and I can do that, yeah? Perfect. Okay, Arch. Freedom. And what I mean by freedom is I don't mean freedom from going into a 9-to-5 job. I mean freedom of personal expression, going in the direction that I want to go in. And there is an element of financial reward, but fundamentally, in my experience, owner-managers, and I'm an owner-manager myself, we are people who sit there and say, this isn't being serviced and I want to service it. My bosses won't let me service it, so I'm going to go and bloody service it myself. I want to go in this direction. This is the direction I want to go in. I don't arrogantly believe that actually what I'm going to do is best, but I'm just an owner. I'm the type of person who needs to go in the direction I need to go in. And that's what owner-managers do. So they burst out to get the personal freedom. They get to be able to do what they want to do. They don't want to go to 16 committees to get permission or debate it with somebody. They just want to do what they want to do. Anybody violently agree with this as a fundamental reason that owner-managers start a business? You're nodding, which means you disagree.
No, I agree.
No, I'm joking. I'm just kidding. Okay, fine. So, why should an owner-manager sell their business? Now, my personal view is that you should never sell your business until it stops giving you the personal freedom that you got. Because if by definition, as an owner-manager type, an entrepreneurial type, you're going in a direction that you want to go in, you've got that freedom, your business is successful because you're a good owner-manager and you're making money, you're probably making, almost certainly making more money than you can make anywhere else, so you're financially okay, you're going in the direction you want to go in, you're happy. Why would you sell your business? You know, and this is a challenge that I give to all clients. They come in and say, oh, I've got to sell my business because somebody's offered me some money. I say, well, why? Why? What are you going to do? So we broke it down into 3 categories of reasons that that the business would stop giving people personal freedom. Can anybody come up with an idea of a situation where the business has stopped giving you personal freedom and therefore you should be thinking about selling it? No? Okay. I'll give you some clues or answers. First one is retirement. This is where somebody sat there and they've said, you know, I want to work for 30 years, and you know, or 40 years or whatever. And at 60, I want to go and play golf. I want to sail around the world. I want to surf or ski or play golf, or, you know, whatever. But I don't want to work anymore. At 60, I'm going to go and spend time with my grandchildren or whatever else. But I'm not going to be in this business doing this stuff. And it's a fixed plan in your mind. A lot of people have this. You start getting to 60 and you suddenly start thinking my personal freedom isn't about being able to have expression at work, it's about being out of the door. Now all of your employees can turn around to you at 1 or 3 months notice and say, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore. You go, okay, great, work your notice, here's a gold watch, off they go. But you can't, you walk up to the door, it's bricked over. There's no way out, and you've got all these feelings of personal loyalty to your clients and your staff and all this stuff, but it just makes people more and more unhappy over time. So you're bouncing around, and all the drive and passion and desire that owner-managers have, because you need that to start a good business, is suddenly bouncing around the walls of the business, damaging the business. Right? So that's the first one, retirement. The second one, change of life view. Very, very, very similar to retirement, but it isn't preordained or pre-planned. So this is a specific age, 35, 40, 50, whatever. This is something happens in your life that shifts your DNA, it shifts the way you think. Unfortunately, it's quite often a tragic event, or some form of illness, or something, or maybe the birth of a grandchild, and you know, I want to spend time with this grandchild. Something happens that makes you think, the 30 years that I've spent over here doing this, I don't want to do it anymore. Right? I don't want to do that anymore. And all the things are the same, and it's a progressive illness, if you like. You don't get more happy. Once it's broken, sorry, I tripped over the board. So the last one, which is by far the biggest category, by the way, is it's no longer fun. And it's no longer fun is a broad church, but what it basically means is there's something in the business or you or where it's got to that means that now this business doesn't work for you anymore. And it could be that the personal freedom that you left a PLC to go and get, you've suddenly grown a monster, and now you're having to impose those systems on other people that you hate, and you're just getting unhappy. You're just not happy. You never wanted to work for a £50 million turnover business or a £10 million turnover business. That's what you left. You know, and there's nothing wrong with that. People grow businesses from here to here, and they get to there, and they're not happy anymore. Another example of it's not fun anymore is where a business has grown to a point where it's got huge potential, but can't utilise that potential because you don't have the capital. So I met a guy the other day, and we're helping him, and basically this is what he was saying. He was just saying, on a daily basis, he sees opportunities float past his desk that he can't afford to do, but his business is in a perfect strategic position to do them, but he can't do them. So it's hugely frustrating, and he's really unhappy. It's not fun anymore. It was fun when he could write a cheque for 50 quid and go and do something extra. And there's a whole load of reasons, but fundamentally, if you sat in your business thinking, I don't enjoy this anymore, I mean, Bill Gates is a great example. There's very few owner-managers who can put an MD in. Because owner-managers are technical specialists, as a general rule. They're not generally professionally trained MDs, right? So you get to a certain size of business and suddenly think, well, my skill set doesn't really match this. So you go off and get loads of training from all sorts of organisations. But fundamentally, it might be that all you really want to do is write software. And Bill Gates did that. He said, I'm going to be Chief Technology Officer, I'm going to have an MD in my business. Very few examples of owner-managers who can do that because it's your baby, it's passionate. What you end up with is quite often, you know, a worse situation. Anyway, so those are the three reasons that I believe. Does anybody want to ask any questions about those? Okay, so you've got to the point and you've sat there and said, right, for whatever reason 1, reason 2, reason 3, reason 1 and 3, reason 2 and 3, reason 1, 2 and 3, I'm not in the right position. I want to sell my business. It's the right time for me. So the questions then ask, what if I'm too key to my business? And this is a problem that a lot of owner managers have. They see they're the nexus of their business. Most value add goes through them. You know, quite a lot of owner managed businesses, they've successfully gone into having a management team, and they're not that key. But quite a lot of owner managed businesses, they're very, very key to their business. Does this cause a problem? It depends. And it really depends on your reason for selling the business, Arch. So the first reason for, you know, if you want to retire and you're too key to your business, you have a problem. You have a real problem because it's not necessarily a deal breaker, but it's definitely a price issue. If you want to leave the business and you want somebody else to buy it and there isn't a replacement for you, then they're going to go after price. They might still buy it if there's value in the business and there's value in the contracts and they can put a manager in. You know, but it's definitely going to impact on price. Same for change of life view and DNA. However, if it's no longer fun anymore, so take the example of you haven't got enough capital, so you want to sell so that you can actually drive the business to the next level, then it makes no issue. It's no issue. It's not a price issue. It's not any sort of issue that you're too key to your business because they'll help you with that and you don't want to leave. Does that make sense? Okay. So how do you groom your business for sale? Preparing your business for sale is basically about three things. The first thing it's about is research. Really finding out who wants to buy your business. The questions we ask are, anybody here know who might buy their business or know who would buy their business? No, I mean as a company, in your mind, do you know which company would buy your business?
Well, we know who's buying in our industry who are buying the business.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we do.
Okay. Do you know why specifically they'd look at your business?
Customer base.
Right. Okay. The other questions you ask is, to what level do you know who's going to buy your products? I'm going to guess pretty intimately. Maybe? Yeah. And you know why they're buying your products and what they're going to use them for. My point is this: most people know more about who buy their products, why they'll buy their products, and exactly what value they'll get out of it than they know about who would buy their business, why they'd buy their business, and exactly what value they'd get out of it. And if you're grooming a business for sale, if you've got enough time, you say, right, I've started feeling unhappy now, but I'm not miserable, but I'm going to be miserable in 2 years, so I'm going to start grooming my business for sale now. You've got a couple of years to change it, doing research into the market and exactly what they want. And I agree with you in competitors. We will talk about how to find a strategic purchaser. Competitors aren't the best example. They're a good example. A lot of people sell to competitors, but they're not the best example of a strategic purchaser. Pardon me. If you can find a strategic purchaser and figure out what they want, then you can change your business into being more attractive. But the second part of grooming the business is to make sure that the management team and the structure is appropriate to the transaction that you want to do. Because as I say, it will be a value point. People will go after it if it's not there. This isn't, by the way, me or Archie not being able to use PowerPoint. The reason there's a massive gap here is because the housekeeping side of grooming your business for sale, which is what, in my experience, most people try and sell people as grooming your business for sale, is a huge amount less added value than these two things here. These are the two things you should do, right, because they will absolutely affect the price of your business and the saleability of your business. Whether or not your accounts are in perfect, crisp running order any decent corporate finance advisor can handle in a process. It will make your advisor have a bit more of a headache in the process. It will not be a value point in 99 times out of 100. But people will still sell you this as the new garlic bread and say, what we really need to do is come in and tidy your business up. You know, we'll roll our sleeve down and we'll polish it a little bit. £50,000, please. Next one. So, you've got to a stage, you've started your business, you've had a great time running your business, you've then decided that it's time to sell your business for the reasons we mentioned, and you've come to think, right, I want to start a process. So the two key questions are, how do I maximise the price of my business, and how do I minimise the disruption that a process will cause to my business? So anybody, what could cause disruption in selling your business? We've kind of touched on this before. Everybody goes into a process to sell their business with fears about how this could go badly wrong. So what could happen that would damage your business and cause disruption? Staff. Yep, okay.
It gets leaked to the marketplace.
Yep.
The purchaser could be looking for your clients.
Right, okay. Time wasters. Cynical time wasters. Yeah, I'm not going to write that down because it's too many words. And I'll probably spell it wrong because I'm an accountant, not an English professor. Anybody else?
Eyes off the ball.
Yes, absolutely. Distraction. Again, too long a word. Distraction, yeah, absolutely, distraction. So Arch, go. So what will cause disruption? First, well, I feel like it's a generation goal, the family fortunes. It's great, isn't it? Staff. Staff will find out and potentially leave. There you go. Whoever got that was brilliant. Customers will find out and potentially leave. And suppliers, that was magic, wasn't it? Suppliers will find out and cause issues. And of course, all of the disruption of running a process. So how do you manage this and stop these things happening? Now, especially in the smaller deal space, and this is somebody talked about hole in the market. The reason I started my own business 12 years ago was because in the sub 10, 15 million pound deal space, there were no advisors who did really anything other than broker businesses. And what happens when you broker a business is you basically, whether it's through a website or a brochure or a magazine or the Financial Times or sending out 400 anonymous mail shots, you just tell everybody that the business is for sale. And in the 15 million pound plus, in the early 2000s, 15 million pound plus, there were a few really good boutiques that did a much more sophisticated process, one of which I worked for. But there was nobody really in the sub 10, sub 15 million pound deal space that did it. So I sat there and said, I want to do this, largely because I was a young lad and I was running around getting clients who wanted to buy the service and then taking it to my bosses, exactly like you said, and they'd say, sorry, the fees aren't big enough, it doesn't make sense for us with our big overheads. So I said, well, okay, great, I'll go and do it myself. So, Arch, sorry, actually go back. So it is possible to minimise that disruption, and the way you do it, we'll talk about it a bit later, is that you run a covert auction and you do the research properly. We've already touched on it. So how do you maximise the price for a business? Well, in understanding maximising the price for a business, the first thing to do is to understand how businesses are priced. And I think we've touched on it already, or somebody's touched on it already. It's a very simple calculation for unquoted businesses. Price equals EBIT, earnings before tax. If you're American, it's EBITDA, and times multiple. And the multiple M varies per sector. And each sector will have an average, and if you're a more attractive business with a better advisor, you'll get a bit above average, and if you're a less attractive business with or with a less good advisor, you'll get below average multiple. But that's fundamentally it. Price equals EBIT times a multiple. For your core price, all other things equal. However, there are two prices that a business has. And the first one is what I call the financial price. So basically what we're saying, and let's say it's an industry that has a multiple of 7. you've got a business and it's got 10 million in turnover. It's got profit of £1 million, right? EBIT, profit. You times that by your 7, your price, all other things equal, is 7 million quid. There you go, happy days. That's your financial valuation. If a private equity firm came and wanted to invest in your business, you wanted to do a management buyout, you'd probably get about 7 million quid because there's no extra stuff to have, that's it, right? And you can negotiate a bit higher than that, you could, you know, you might get a little bit less than that if there's certain issues, but fundamentally that's where you are. However, the second price is what we call the strategic price. And strategic buyers, strategic purchasers of businesses aren't idiots. They don't come along and say, you know what, the market multiple for this business is 7, but because I'm a strategic buyer, I'm going to pay 14. It just, you know, that's not the way their minds work. What they look at, they have a calculation, and they sit there and they say, what's this business worth to me? And how does that look? They look at the synergies that they can get out of your business. So could anybody come up with any idea of synergies that our kind of fictitious £10 million business, a strategic buyer comes up, what could they get that would make the profit higher the year after they buy it?
Consultancy business that has an interest in technology, and that recruitment company focuses on the technology, and they've got a contractor that propose technologists, and they sell at one price for margin, but actually the consultancy buys them and then absorb that and therefore increase their margin per head that they then deliver to their customer.
Yeah. Okay, so you're talking about operational synergies. Okay, so they might think we can rationalise some stuff, get some operational synergies out, and you know, we'll make another £500,000 in year 1. Other examples of synergies is they might sit there and say, well, you know what, we're selling these customers this product, or you're selling these customers this product, and we're selling this other product that to similar customers, or the same you know, we're in parallel verticals, and we could sell them your product, we could sell our customers your product, you could sell our customers, your customers our product. So you have sales synergies. This is quite common. And they might say, well, that'll get me another £1 million. I think I can sell 7 million quid's worth of that stuff, and the margins will be sufficient because it won't increase the overheads, that we'll get another £1 million. And there are also, you know, there are other things like cost synergies. But the point is that they're not just sitting there saying, I'm going to pay double the multiple because I'm a mug punter. What they're doing is they're looking at your business specifically and they're saying, what can I get out of it? What does this business look like in 1, 2, 3 years' time if we take it on? How does it get us down our strategic path? And one of the other ones is access to an international market, which actually can you know, if it's an international purchaser wanting to come into the UK and you've got a foothold, again, they're sat there saying, well, how can we expand the business? How much is that going to add to our business? How much are we going to be able to sell to our US customers in the UK? Blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. So what they do is they get to the bottom and they sit there and they say, God, I actually did the maths working out really well. I just make these numbers up as I go along. And they sit there and they say, this business is worth £4 million of EBIT to us. This is what we can get out of it. You know, they're selling a business that's £1 million EBIT, but to us it's worth £4 million in EBIT. So if you apply the multiple to that, the price they can afford to pay without losing money is 28 million quid. Now, I'm not going to insult you and sit there and say, so you should get 28 million quid for your business. What I'm saying is, somewhere between 7 million and 28 million is the bracket that they can afford to pay. Now, clearly, in this extreme example, the buyer would probably come in and offer you 9 or 10 million. I'm guessing. You know, but they do it with you know, on the hope that they're going to blow you out of the market. You're going to think, well, bloody hell, I'm going 9 to 10 times, and it's 7 times in the multiple. This is great. I'm going to chew your arm off. If you can look at what they're getting out of it, you can push them as hard as you can. And if you can keep the process If you can keep the process competitive and push them, then you can get them further down this scale. Now, clearly, you'd have to have a miraculous result and 3 or 4 really good strategic purchases to get them anywhere near close to 28 million, but you can push them further and further. But that is why strategic purchases pay more for businesses. Okay, so the key to running a business and maximising the price and managing confidentiality, going back to your original question, is to find strategic purchasers. So we've talked about why they'll pay more. We've talked about where we'll find them, international, complementary products. We're just basically going down these synergies, people who are selling complementary products, international people in your market who are maybe doing complementary products, people who can get operating synergies, so they're competitors. But the point is to map out and think, who can get benefit out of this? Who would be able to sell? I talked about an example to Chris earlier of a business where we sold an event management. We actually sold 2 event management businesses to a clinical services organisations because they specialised in pharmaceutical events. And event management businesses trade at multiples of kind of 7 or 8 times EBIT. Clinical services organisations, businesses that sell stuff to pharma, are kind of pretty much double that as a multiple. But because these businesses did 90+% of their events were investigator meetings for clinical trials, it was a service that they could sell to pharmaceutical companies, and that's what clinical service organisations wanted. They wanted things that would go to clinic thing, and they ended up selling for the multiple that was appropriate for their market, not the market they were buying in. So looking at who can get the best out of it, and it's a brainstorming exercise. Go on, Arch. So where are they, and how do we find them? Next one, Arch. How do you manage this? So what you need to do is potential purchaser research, and this is the key to managing a confidential process to sell a business. So the first thing you do is you find everyone, and I mean everyone. This is probably a week's work for a specialist analyst. You do a brainstorming session at the beginning, you say, right, blue sky thinking, who can benefit from this? Complementary verticals, international buyers, who could benefit in pools of potential purchasers? You then give it to the poor old analyst, who's never been me, by the way, because people who run deals are not people who sit in front of computers for a while. Nothing wrong with them, I love them, but couldn't do it, couldn't sit down long enough. And you get them to dig and find all of the companies in those spaces, in those sectors, in those countries that could possibly buy your business. This, a good broker, if that's not too much of an oxymoron, will do this. And then they'll email them all and tell them all that a business in Wokingham that turns over 10 million and provides brown widgets is for sale on a confidential basis to 400 people who are in that market. I sound like a stand-up comedian then. And, sorry, Arch, you got a bit mad then. So find everyone. They will email that out, and of course then everybody will know. Now we go back to the what disruption. I've been part of a business when it was sold. I was part of a boutique in the city when it sold to Tenon. And so I know personally, and I've seen it in businesses I've sold, if your staff find out that you're selling the business, the first thing they will do is look at their CV. Even the loyal staff who have no intention of leaving, maybe not the first thing, but within a few days, they will look at their CV. That file will come up on their computer and they'll just make sure that it's up to date. This isn't a problem if they find out a couple of weeks before legal completion, because by the time they've looked at the CV and maybe put an extra couple of experience things on it, deal's done, they're happy, you're selling them on the new world, happy days. If they find out 7 months before the business actually sells, you've got a real issue, because they've opened their CV and now they're out in the world and they're saying to their mates, my business is for sale, the business I work for is for sale. He said, actually, I've got a buddy who kind of is looking for somebody with your skills. Do you want to meet him? Well, no, not really, I'm happy and I'm sure the guys will look after me. Actually, you know what? You can see where it goes. So telling everyone is a bit of a non-starter. So what do you do with this list of 2,000 companies that you found that could buy your business? Well, you do some work as a revolutionary concept. You filter them online. There's enough information online to be able to knock off at least 3/4 of that list. They're not big enough, they're in negative profits, they've publicly stated they're not making acquisitions, you know, bomb, 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 bomb. There's so much information that you can just sit there and say, of course they're not going to buy the business, they're not in a position to buy the business, they're in Chapter 11. It's unlikely. You know, there's been an announcement that their private equity firm is wanting to sell them. This is not a likely scenario that they're going to buy a business. So you can knock a load of these people off and get it down to a manageable list of maybe 50 to 100 companies. And then you call them. You call them, and what you absolutely don't do is say, I have a business that is for sale and it looks like this. Because what would any of you do if one of your competitors, somebody phoned you up and said, one of your competitors for sale, do you want to come and have a look around their factory and a chat to their staff? Anybody? Yeah, why not? Absolutely. Oh yeah, actually that's on my strategic vision, is to buy that company, so I'm going to come and have a look. No, what you do is you phone them up and the call goes something like this. Hello, Mr. Jones. You know, we're us, and we're doing some research into your place. We see a lot of deals in your space. We want to understand what you're looking to buy, so that if we come across what you're looking to buy, we can bring it to you. You'd be amazed. Most people have this conversation whilst trying to sell your business is confidential. What you're looking to buy is very much not, especially for PLCs. So then you sit there and you say, well, I've looked at your website. You're in 4 product streams. Which one are you most, you know, are you acquisitive in this? 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 What's your sweet spot in terms of deal value, geography, strategic focus, blah, blah, blah. It's like a half-hour call. And out of that information set, in the bottom left-hand corner, they will tell you if your business is interesting to them or not, or your client's business is interesting to them or not. And you're not giving them any clues. If they sit there and say, a Wokingham-based brown widget manufacturer turning over £10 million is absolutely what I want, and they have no idea you've even got a client, you're probably on a winner. It's probably a strategic focus for them. But they'll also tell you, I want businesses that we can get serious operational synergies out of. I want businesses that are heavy in accounts because we want to get the accounts out ourselves. I want businesses that sell to Tesco's, Aldi, Sainsbury's, Waitrose. And you're sat there going, geez, my client sells to Tesco's, Aldi, Sainsbury's, Waitrose. Perfect. And you match the two up. And at the end of it, you have a report that gives you typically 6 to 8 companies that have told you that they want to buy a business like that. And they may be competitors. They will likely be international purchasers, people in complementary verticals, people who can get synergies out of customers, all sorts of different people. But they will all be interested. And those are the only people you approach. Because you've spoken to everybody else. They've said, we're not acquisitive. Yeah, hello. We would like to talk to you about whether you would like to buy businesses. No, we absolutely don't want to buy businesses. We're about to go into Chapter 11. Great, okay, well, good luck with that. Thank you very much. I think that's going to go in the reject section. And next call. So, Arch, does anybody have any questions about how to protect confidentiality, or is that reasonably clear? Yeah? Okay, good. Okay, so I kind of overran a little bit, which I could have confidently predicted. I was trying to shoehorn something I usually do in 2 hours into 40 minutes, but there you go. I think it's just worth touching, given that you've given up your Thursday afternoon on actually what a process is. This doesn't vary that much. What I'll do is I'll go through it and I'll just highlight the bits that I'm quite passionate about making sense and the bits that you have to do properly. The process of selling a business has 3 distinct phases: the preparatory phase, the marketing phase, and the legal phase. However, when thinking about all of these things, always think about psychology. I do a 2-day seminar for a firm, for PLC chairmen, on how to improve their buying of owner-managed businesses, because I'm actually an owner-managed business specialist. And the thing about selling, most people will sell their companies to what I would describe as a PLC. And by PLC, I don't mean what the city describes as a PLC. By PLC, I mean a business that's sufficiently big that the guy who's writing the check to buy your business doesn't own any shares in the business. If they're that big, in my mind, they're a PLC. It's complete nonsense. I'm an accountant, I know this. But it's the type of mentality. What you have to realise is that as an owner-manager, dealing with somebody who is what I would describe as a PLC employee, you might as well be a cat dealing with a dog. This is no judgment for either category. You are a completely different species of animal. And what I mean by this is that the fundamental thing that wakes you up in the middle of the night is totally different. Most owner-managers have worked for larger companies, but can anybody give me an example of what you think wakes somebody who works for a large company up in the middle of the night about their job? Anybody?
I work for HSBC,
Loads of things. Yeah. Okay, well, there's another question. Is what would lose you your job?
Negotiating a bad deal.
money laundering.
Money laundering. Yeah. Stealing money from the cash point, as we were talking about earlier. Losing it in the bin. Absolutely right. Negotiating a bad deal. What wakes PLC, and anybody who is what I would define as a PLC employee, please shout me down if you don't agree with me. What wakes a PLC employee up in the middle of the night is being seen to make a bad decision. Being seen to make a bad decision consistently loses you your job. It is death to your career. Another way of describing it is not covering risk, opening the business up to risk, right? This is what they care about. Can anybody, and we've got some owner-managers in the room, can anybody tell me what wakes an owner-manager up in the middle of the night in a cold sweat? Anybody?
Cash flow.
Cash flow! I have been doing that 2-day seminar. This is a big thing on. We do day one, we do the PLC thing, and they'll go, yeah, well, that's pretty fair, that's pretty fair. Yeah, that's really good. On day two, I say, on day two, just so you stay, I'm going to tell you what an owner-manager cares about. I have yet, in that session, for any PLC guy to ever guess that it's cash flow. They say, oh, well, they care about their customer, they care about their staff. It's cash. Cash is king. I say to if I phone my 10-year-old son now and said to him, Matthew, why do businesses fail? He said, there's only one reason that businesses fail, Dad. He's very grown up. And that's they run out of cash. There is only one thing that kills you as an owner-manager. Now, if you were to grade out of 10 how much you care about risk, 3, 4, every owner-manager, myself included, have got loads of apocryphal tales that bring a smile to our face about how we've wasted money we can afford to waste on some harebrained scheme over here that would be the new way, the new garlic bread to get clients in, that when you look back was really not that smart, but at the time you had loads of passion and you drove in that direction. PLC guy would never do that. You just say, this is going to work. Yes, I've got the cash. Boom. You know, and we don't care. We don't care about risk. So the point is that when you're going into an M&A transaction, what you have to realise is you're dealing with a species of individual who cares about risk and, what's more, couldn't tell you what the cash balance in their business is, whether it's positive, negative, and probably couldn't guess it within 3 zeros, positive or negative. You know, so they don't care about cash and they absolutely care about risk. You have the opposite situation. You absolutely care about cash. It's been drilled into you from the early days of your business when you sat there and think, if we don't get a new client today, I can't pay payroll tomorrow. You know, these are the things. So you absolutely care about cash. In your DNA, even if you're now a multi-millionaire and your business is doing really brilliant, you're still there, and you don't care about risk. Now, as I go through, the reason I harp on about this is incredibly important. It is the #1 reasons that deal flounders, and nobody else seems to get it. Not nobody else, but I talk to a lot of corporate financiers, and they go, I don't know what you're talking about. Go on, so we'll go through the process. This is all fairly standard. So we've talked about research. we talked about preparing an information memorandum. The thing that you need to know about an information memorandum is a selling document. It sells the 4 or 5 sexy things. However good you think your business is, it only has 4 or 5 really interesting things about it, and this sells them. Now, you are sending that document to a PLC employee, and probably not a senior one, right? Reasonably senior. I mean, he's not a secretary, but a guy, an M&A manager, right? This guy is now God. He is under no risk. He's got your information memorandum. He can file it under B whenever he wants, right? So you've got to make that document really pithy. You've done the research. You're only selling it to strategic purchasers, so the document should match the research. It should scream to him, this is on your strategic path, so that it doesn't get filed under bin. Because at the moment, this guy's in God. He's in no risk if he throws your IM in the bin at all. He can do it whatever he wants. So you've got to hook him. It's got to be a pithy document. This is not supposed to be a 60-page prospectus for listing a company. It's not that kind of document. So you go through that, you've prepared your research, you've prepared your IM, you get to the end, you've got 6 to 7, 8 companies that you're going to approach, you agree, you meet those, you look at the document and think, right, that document's really pithy, that really sells it, that really sexy, and I get why the strategic purchasers are going to want to look at this business. The purpose of this document, A, not to go in the bin, B, to solicit a meeting with a senior decision maker. So you get to the end of that, and you're going to approach your 8 companies with your information memorandum, Marsh. The next thing you do is you approach them, and you send out the IMs, and you get a non-disclosure agreement signed. One word on non-disclosure agreements. Do not ever rely on them, right? Non-disclosure agreements protect one person, and that's the professional advisor who asked you to sell them, because you can sue him if he doesn't, right? In my view, I'm not a lawyer. You cannot suck information out of somebody's head once you've given them. So whenever you give information to somebody in a corporate finance process, you always need to ask you, if your advisor isn't, is it commercially sensitive? Can we anonymise it? Can we push it until later in the process? You can't suck the information out of people's heads. It doesn't matter that it's got an NDA. Actually, NDAs are quite useful because it means they can't steal your staff, basically. So you send out the information memorandum, and as I've said, the purpose of that is to get a site visit. The site visit is where it all changes, right? Because up until then, you're dealing with an M&A manager, somebody else up the thing might have heard of the deal, but they haven't looked at it in detail. Once you get a meeting, a senior guy will turn up to this meeting. This is your one opportunity to sell the business to this guy. And you've done research, you've understood their strategy, you've sent them an information memorandum, you've got feedback on the information memorandum in preparation for the site visit. You know a lot about their strategy. This should not be, we're having 5 meetings, we'll do 1 presentation. This is, we're having 5 meetings, we're doing 5 presentations. You're trying to get the guy in the room to want to buy your business. And at the end of that, what you want to happen is for him to walk out, and as he's walking out, turn around to your M&A manager who you're going to be dealing with and say, I want that business, and walk off. Because then, if you remember the psychology of the PLC employee, he's at risk. He's not going to lose his job if he doesn't get the deal. That's ridiculous. But he's going to have to explain why. Up until then, he hasn't had to explain why. He's just thrown an IM in the bin and it wasn't great and nobody will really talk to him about it. Once his boss has gone and decided that he wants to get that business, he's going to have to explain why he hasn't managed to buy it at the end. And it'll probably be fine, but it changes the dynamic. After the site visit information, you look for offers. While it's still competitive between first offer and second offer, if there are any small skeletons in the closet, this is when you tell people. By the time you get to the end, lead negotiations and choose one purchaser and sign what's known as a heads of terms with them, you do not want anything bad unknown about your business. Nothing. Because you're not in a competitive situation anymore. Between first offer and second offer, if you've got a piece of information that pops up, like maybe profit's gone down by 10%, you say, well, you've offered 7 million quid for the business, that's really nice, we'd like you to improve the offer, and oh, by the way, here's the latest forecast, profits are down by 10%, please improve the offer. What you can in that situation, you're probably going to be lucky to hold the offer. But the point is, you can disclose information whilst it's still competitive, and people will still be sensible about it. But once you sign a purchase, once you sign a heads of terms, you're now going exclusive. You're signing a piece of paper that says we will not deal with anybody else for 3 months while you close a deal. You need no negative information to come out from then on. So you need to have disclosed everything that's material. Go on, Arch. So this is the last point I'm going to make on the process, or the last couple of points. Big point, you've got to supervise due diligence. Due diligence is where they come in and they check that you are telling the truth, basically. So up until now, largely they've taken your word for everything. Yeah, we're making £1 million in profit. They're going to send in some accountants to check that you actually did make £1 million in profit and you're not Tesco's. I got a little laugh there, that was quite good. You also need to supervise, you need to keep really close to this, or your advisor needs to keep really close. You need to be in the pocket of the due diligence advisor in a really helpful way. If you have any problems, just give me a call. I'll resolve any information you need. Give me a call. I'll put it. You want an early warning system on issues before they get passed up the line. You want to be given first opportunity to answer stuff, because they might just be misunderstandings. Supervising the legals. Lawyers are wonderful people. I have lots of lawyers who are friends, very, very good friends. They're not always frightfully commercial and can tend to be a little bit argumentative and orthorexic. So you need to make sure that you're kind of peppering some of that tenacity to absolutely cover you on every legal aspect with a bit of commercial reality, because otherwise your bills will go out of control, but also it can really damage a deal. And there are some fantastic lawyers, I'm not saying, but it's just something to bear in mind, that you might need to put some commercial sense, or your advisor will need to put some commercial sense on there. The third one, which is resolving issues. I have a bit of a pet thing. I was going to say it's a pet peeve. I fundamentally don't believe in 99 times out of 100 deals that PLC purchasers chip the price cynically. What happens is that they sit there and they say, we're going to buy a business for £10 million at risk level 9. They then find something in due diligence that takes the risk level up to 10. And they're really lazy and unsophisticated, so they say, right, okay, well in that case, to cover my backside, because I don't want to be seen to make a bad decision or expose the business to risk, I've found risk, I have to do something, or I'm in trouble, so they reduce the price. It's the lazy way of doing it. There are 1,000,001 ways to deal with risk that comes out of due diligence, but what happens is, as an owner-manager, what do owner-managers care about? Cash. What do owner-managers not care about? Risk. So they see the price going down and say, they're cynically chipping my price because you care about price. What you're forgetting is they don't care about price. They've decided this isn't the guy's money. He's not incentivized to get the price down. He's just seen the risk go up. So if you can finesse and manage that and actually give him what he wants, you can 99 times out of 100 get rid of the price chip. Alleviate it, move it to a contingency, put it in escrow, give them warranties or indemnities. You can manage it in a way. But I very, very rarely see a PLC employee cynically go after price. He's been told to do the deal. Why would he jeopardise it? It's not his money. It doesn't make any difference. But it's another example of that psychology. It's the fact that basically you've got two different species. One's looking at that and not caring about that. One's looking at that and caring about it and not caring about that. And what you end up with is a lot of falling outs. So you can resolve those issues by just realising what's actually going on below the scenes. And once you've done that, once you've got rid of the price chip, and or the non-price chip, you get to sit down and have a glass of champagne.